Like, for example, the whole Kobe calling that stuff out for like 2 decades. And it's not based on any stats. It's just based because I watched every single Kobe game, and I know basketball, so I watch him play, and I'm calling everything out. I'm just saying like his defense is overrated. His actual impact on defense is like non-existent for the most part. Like I be calling that out, and then like years later, finally these advanced stats come out on his defense that my cousin
Yeah.
sent me. He's like, hey, look, it's just what you've been telling me. And I was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, exactly. I told you. Like, I've never seen a guy who claims to get so many first team all defensive awards get scored on so much. You know, like I've seen in the playoffs. I've never seen a guy in the playoffs have people get their season averages on them every single series, and for some reason he's first team all defense.
Yeah,
It doesn't
yeah.
even make sense. It's like Latrell Sprewell averages 20 something points. He gets 20 something points on Kobe in the playoffs. I'm like, what? So
Yeah.
how is that first team all defense? And then all of a sudden you have a guy like Tony Allen or James Posey or Shane Batty or Ron Artest, and they're shutting the guy down for the whole series, and Kobe doesn't really do that. Doesn't really do that.
So you remember that Facebook post I made about Eddie Jones, right? So I said that Eddie Jones was a more consistent defender than Kobe. And then everyone started flaming me. They started hating on me, right? They were like, oh, how could you say that Eddie Jones is better than Kobe at anything, right? Well, the thing is, if you actually look at the footage, if you actually look at the tapes, Eddie Jones was more consistent at defense than Kobe, right? So back then, young Kobe was actually pretty decent at defense, right? But the thing is, his effort wasn't consistent, right? Sometimes he'll put a little bit more effort in defending this guy than others, and always, of course, he puts more effort into on-ball defense than off-ball defense. But at least young Kobe was somewhat decent at it, whereas older Kobe, right, wasn't even decent at defense, right? He just got all these all-defensive first-team selections just based off of reputation than anything else. But at least young Kobe was kind of decent, just inconsistent, right? But Eddie Jones was actually more consistent than Kobe during his career, right? And that's just the truth. It's facts. If you look at the tapes, that's how you can easily see that, right? That's how it is. But the thing is, people just pay attention to like, oh, how many points Kobe scored. Oh, so he must be a great offensive player. They don't think about how many field goals he took or anything like that. And they look at the all defensive first team selections for Kobe, and they're like, oh, okay, he must be one of the greatest defenders ever because of all his first team selections. Well, the thing is, if you actually watch the tapes, like you said, right, Gerard Wilkins, James Posey, right, these guys never got any kind of Vernon Maxwell, right, another guy you mentioned. They never got any all defensive first team or second team defense. They never got any all defensive selections at all. But they were amazing defenders, right? But you wouldn't know this until you actually watch the game, until you watch the footage, right? You wouldn't know that. So that's the thing. Like sometimes you can't just go by the media awards and stuff like that. So even though Kobe has more all defensive selections, it doesn't really mean he's a better defender than Eddie Jones. Eddie Jones had 3 all defensive selections. Kobe had 12, right? But that's misleading, right? I think that's misleading. So I was just posting the facts, and people don't want to believe it because they're like in denial. The thing is, Eddie Jones, honestly, so Kobe obviously overall he's a better player than Eddie Jones, but the gap is actually not that big as people think because they're both pretty athletic, right? Eddie Jones was a pretty athletic specimen too, and I think for offensive capabilities, Kobe has a wider array of moves. But if you look at his field goal percentage, they aren't that different. Kobe can probably get off tougher shots in traffic, and he can probably take tougher shots than Eddie Jones can. But really, that's about it, right? If you look at the athleticism, the defense aspect, the rebounding is about the same. Kobe's probably a little bit of a better passer than Eddie Jones is, but that's really about it. Like when people think about, oh, Kobe, how can you compare Eddie Jones to Kobe at all? Well, the thing is, if you actually look at the tapes, right, you can actually see like Eddie Jones more consistent defender, probably just as athletic as Kobe was, right? It's just that because he didn't have all the rings or the media attention and stuff like that. He isn't as well known as Kobe. I think he's one of the more underrated stars in NBA history. But yeah, like just people are in denial, man, just because of how popular Kobe's fan base is. So. And yeah, like you said, I've never seen so many guys get their points on Kobe, right? I've never seen any other so-called elite defender get scored on so much, right? By pretty much everyone else in the league, right? Brandon Roy, like you mentioned before, Brandon Roy gets his points on Kobe. Ray Allen gets his points on Kobe. Like you said, Ray Allen takes advantage of Kobe's predictabilities and just scores at him because he knows what he's going to do. Both Brandon Roy and Ray Allen basically took advantage of Kobe like that. Allen Iverson gets pretty much outscores Kobe every time they meet, and you can check this up if you go to Atlanta basketball and you look up their head-to-head stats. Allen Iverson versus Kobe Bryant. Allen Iverson outscores Kobe every time, pretty much almost every time they meet, right? That's just a fact. And then a bunch of guys get their career highs in Kobe as well. Allen Houston scored like 50 points on him. Gilbert Arenas scored like 60 points on him, I think. Jeremy Lin got 38 points on him, right? So I've never seen so many other guys, other dudes, outscore someone who's supposedly an elite defender at his position, right? At the same position, obviously, right? I'm talking about guards here. Like, even on his own team, Kobe wasn't the best defender, right? You got Trevor Ariza, Ron Artest. All these guys were better defenders than Kobe. And yet, for some reason, Kobe gets 12-time all-defensive selections, 11-time first team. It doesn't make any sense, right? You can look at the defensive plus-minus stats going all the way back, I think probably from at least 2003. Like, he's just been below average in pretty much all these aspects, right? And somehow he still gets selected to the all-defensive first team. It doesn't make any sense. If you look at the defensive plus-minus, he's like among the bottom in the league, right? Especially like I would say after Shaq left, right? And he started becoming he started wanting to take over the team, right? That's when his defense really dropped off. And oh my God, like just so many reasons, like why Kobe is overrated, but defense, definitely on defense, and offense too, because he just takes so many field goals, right? If you look at the top 10 most field goals taken, Kobe has 6 of them, right? He took 50 shots in this last game, 46 shots for the 81-point game. Like, you don't see LeBron up there. You don't see Curry or KD up there. Just imagine if Curry or KD or LeBron took 50 shots, right? Just imagine that, right? So I think both offense and defense, right? It's, his fans always talk about how many points he scored, and how many all defensive selections they have. It's bullshit. It's basically all bullshit,
So I'm like, I don't understand this first team all defense thing for Kobe. It doesn't make sense. So yeah.
Probably it's also there's maybe weak defenders at the guard position in the 2000s.
Well, the thing is, guys like Tony Allen, he's a guard, and he's a much better defender than Kobe was.
Yeah, Tony Allen got a bunch of all defensive.
Okay, but then like if
Well
Kobe
said.
got first team all defensive though, then I guess Tony Allen wasn't getting first team all defensive though, because it's not East and West, so he probably got second or third. Yeah, so it doesn't make sense because he's a much better defender than Kobe was, and then James Posey, much better defender was. Ron Artest, Shane Battier were both better. Honestly, Trevor Ariza was a better one-on-one defender than Kobe was, and he was on his team. So, I mean,
maybe Tayshaun Prince.
Prince is good. Prince is pretty good. And then obviously I mentioned guys like Andre Kirilenko and stuff, but then he's more of a small forward. And there's actually quite a few good defenders.
I think it was a little bit weak at the guard. Position though, in probably his era. That's probably why he got so many.
Not really, man. Each year I can still think of even on his own team there's a better wing defender. Perimeter defender. And then on top of that, he's not a very good team defender either. Like he's not even a team defender. I rarely see him help defense properly.
Yeah, so but all defense is mostly based on ball defense. It's not really based on team defense.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Unfortunately,
most of the time, it's based on on ball defense. Because it's the most visible part, right? Because team defense is like you gotta watch the whole game.
The thing about Kobe is like his defense is just like his offense. He can miss like 70% of the shots, and he makes one fucking shot, and then everyone would just nut hug on that one shot for the rest of eternity, but they forget about all the misses.
Oh yeah.
And the same thing with defense. He might get one fucking block, or one steal, and or that one moment, the one hit, where he played okay defense, and people keep talking about that, but they forget about all the times he get blown by.
For LeBron, it's the opposite. People always talk about the 8 points in the 2011 finals.
Exactly.
They bring it up all the time.
Exactly, but not the excellence that he had almost every series.
But all of his other games.
Exactly, but the problem is 85% of the time the guy's excellent. Like, we're not talking about just like good. He's great 85% of the time.
Yeah, but it's like the opposite for LeBron.
Exactly.
They focus only on his worst games.
Exactly. It's like the totally opposite treatment that LeBron gets of what Kobe gets. And then LeBron also, for most of his career, playing in a shitty city, for a shitty team, with a shitty coach, they can't attract free agents.
Yeah.
Kobe had the exact opposite his whole career. Everything about these two guys were opposite for their careers.
That's why it's so stupid. The guy said, "Oh, LeBron played on much better teams than Kobe." I was like, did you even watch basketball?
So imagine this: LeBron is astronomically a better player than Kobe is. By astronomical standards, he's a better player. He's a different level. Imagine if he had all the stuff that Kobe had right from the get-go. This guy would be fucking modern day Bill Russell. You know how many championships he would have if he was born into like Lakers organization on LA with Phil Jackson and Shaq and easy to attract free agents? Like this guy, you know how many championships he would have?
And Eddie Jones and Van Exel.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're talking about like Bill Russell level championships if that's the case. He is that good.
Yeah.
You know, like even with a shit team, he's going to the finals there for a decade. Imagine if he was in a good city with a great team with another great player like Shaq, with a great coach his whole career. Wow, you know, like it's over for the league, and that's the level that LeBron's at. So, I mean, Jordan's at that level too, which he finally got it, and then Jordan got 6 championships.
That's the thing about Kobe fans is like they say, oh, Kobe had a crappy team, like probably, what, 6 years of his 20-year career, his 14 years he had a really good team.
Yeah.
Right? You can probably say, oh, just 6 years of his, compared to LeBron, LeBron had more than 6 years of bad teams.
Way more, and on top of that, LeBron for those years of bad teams, he never had anything to sniff that was as good as Odom was. You know, even on most of Kobe's bad teams, there's still Odom on most of them. Most of them, Odom was there. LeBron never even had something like that on his bad teams. So,
yeah, Kobe's, even having Odom, his worst teams actually probably the ones at the end of his career. With Jordan Hill, like those guys were
sure,
crap.
But that doesn't even count.
But
you know?
yeah, but usually people don't even count those, right?
Clearly, he couldn't even do anything when he still had Gasol and everybody.
But it's not even that. Yeah. That doesn't count because he was injured. He couldn't. He was the worst player on his own team, even with those bad guys.
Exactly. I mean, and prior to the injury, he couldn't do anything with good teams. He had 3 straight years where he did jack shit with good teams. Prior to the injury, it meant nothing. It was just the league was still transitioning when he got those 2 championships.
Mm-hmm.
The league was transitioning where like the new coming young stars like KD and LeBron didn't have their squads yet, or they weren't mature enough yet. And so he was taking advantage.
So you got guys like the Dwight Howard, who was the best player in the league.
Exactly. He had like nothing to go against. The Western Conference was weak because the Spurs were old and they didn't get Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green yet. Once you saw the new talent start to step up, LeBron got a squad, KD started to mature with his team. It's not close anymore. He couldn't compete anymore after that. So he just lucked out because he was in that segment where he had the biggest team in the league at a point where the league was at its smallest point and the weakest point, and he had the biggest team in the league in stat. And then also the opposing Boston team was injured and they lost Perkins and they barely won 7 games. That's about it. Yeah. So he barely eked out 2 in a lucky time when the league was weak. And then once things got stronger, he couldn't compete anymore. He lost 3 straight years after that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's really it. I mean, and prior to that, he kept losing too. You know, prior to getting Gasol. And also people keep saying, oh, LeBron can't win whatever. Kobe could never ever won a championship without having a dominant big man inside.
Oh, he has to.
Yeah.
He needs the rebounding.
Exactly. In the history of the NBA, there's only been maybe 2 perimeter players that's ever won a championship without having a dominant big man. Jordan and LeBron. That's it. Jordan and LeBron. That's it. Maybe Isaiah, you can make a case, but his front line was very dominant though. Overall, his front line was really good.
Lambeer was good too.
Exactly.
Lambeer actually led the league in rebounding before.
Lambeer, Rick Mahorn, Dennis Rodman. That's a killer front line. That's why I don't even put Isaiah in that category. But Jordan and LeBron are the only 2 guys that can actually win a championship from the perimeter without a dominant big man. You know, I mean, because Bosch does not count as a dominant big man. And then after that, their center was like a 6'9" Joel.
Well, we had to count AD actually. AD.
No, but he has one without a dominant big man.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Back with the Heat, yeah.
Exactly, back with the Heat, and even with Cleveland, if you think about it.
Yeah, Love wasn't really.
Love doesn't really count, really. He's a rebounder. He doesn't block shots. He's not a post.
He does rebound.
Yeah, but he's not really a post presence in the playoffs. He can't score in the post.
He's not a traditional big man though. Yeah.
Exactly. He just stands out there and shoots just like Chris Bosh, right? Like we're not talking about Shaq and Pau Gasol and Bynum here. Like a Bynum Pau Gasol combo or a Shaq
those
combo.
guys are more traditional.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then like Jordan, he was able to do it. LeBron was able to do it. But that's it. Do it. In the history of the NBA, most perimeter players all needed a dominant big man. You know, Wade needed it. Jerry West needed it.
Yes. Until very recently, they were dominant.
Exactly. Magic needed it.
You needed a big man. But you still need guys who can defend well and can rebound.
Oh yeah, you still need some big guys, some big bodies, but we're not talking about like you don't need like a superstar.
Because you saw like Jordan '95 didn't have a big man on his team.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Couldn't win against Shaq and Penny.
Sure. But then at least they didn't need like a dominant big man. They didn't need a Kareem or a Shaq, you know, or even like a Saul to win. You know, they had Luke Longley in there and then a rebounder.
Yeah, Luke Longley. Yeah.
Luke Longley and a rebounder. So
yeah.
So like imagine if Kobe take out Pau Gasol and Bynum, you know, and just give him like, you know, a Rodman, but give him a Luke Longley. Like you think he's gonna win, you know, with that team.
No, Gasol was a key factor. Because without Gasol, he couldn't get anywhere.
Yeah, you know, without Gasol.
Or they lose in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. and that's it. They get Gasol, they go to the finals.
Yep. That's the difference, right?
Exactly.
It's not like Kobe improved drastically to 2008,
exactly.
2007. It's just they got Gasol.
Well, they got Gasol halfway through the season. Like, their record sucked until they got Gasol.
No, he was literally
Yeah.
And I feel Kobe fans really downplay Gasol.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was such a huge part. He was, even if you look at the stats, the analytics, the win shares, everything, Gasol was better than Kobe did.
Yeah.
Those two playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, he should have been Finals MVP.
I always argued with people. I said Gasol is actually arguably every bit just as good, if not even a little bit more important than Kobe was on those teams. Like, if you actually watch the games, you know what you're looking at, you can tell. The guy is super high percentage, super high IQ. He can pass out of the post. He can shoot the mid-range. He can post up. He anchors
Yeah, he should have won those Finals MVPs.
Yeah, he anchors your entire offense. He can rebound. He can actually play defense too.
Especially in 2010.
Super smart guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is every single Kobe teammate is pretty much underrated. I mean, every single
because he's so overrated. Yeah, he makes.
like every single fucking one of his teams is underrated. I mean,
Yeah, Odom's very
underrated.
Odom's very underrated.
Bynum for a couple years was underrated.
They were like, oh, his team's crap. Did you see what Odom averaged in those playoffs?
Even Kwame Brown was underrated versus the Suns. The guy averaged a double-double versus the Suns.
Kwame Brown wasn't that bad.
Yeah, he was actually okay. He was averaging 10
But
rebounds.
people talking like he's the worst player ever. He's like,
Yeah,
no,
and he's
he
not the
wasn't,
worst
he
player
wasn't that
ever.
bad.
I mean, he's not the worst. He might even be better than Drew Gooden for Cleveland. I mean, it's like, oh my god.
Sasha
man.
Pavlovich.
Oh my god, man. That guy sucked so bad, man. I still remember, man, when they're playing against Detroit in the playoffs. LeBron was trying to make the right play.
Yeah.
Pavlovich would get the ball. Like, no one was scoring besides him. No one was scoring. LeBron was the only one scoring that game. Pavlovich would get the ball. And he would run the baseline for no reason. And there was like a big man in there. And then he would just kind of like run in there and just like chuckle the shot, and it was an air ball every single time. He didn't score a single basket. I mean, what the hell is this? You might as well put me out there. I might even hit one more shot than that guy.
Then that guy's worse than Smush Parker then.
Honestly, man, arguably Smush Parker is not a worse player than Daniel Gibson was. Daniel Gibson was just a bench player, and he's 6'2" as well. He only started because like Larry Hughes got injured, and Hughes wasn't playing well either. And then Smush Parker at least was a starter all year, you know. And if you look at the numbers, man, he is no worse. Even Smush Parker in certain games played okay.
Yeah.
You know, and then like Luke Walton's actually a pretty solid player. Luke Walton's a very smart player. He's a guy that.
They shit on Luke Walton too.
Yeah, well, Luke Walton's actually a very smart player. He's one of the.
Let's look at one stat: points per game. That's it.
Yeah, and they try to shut on everybody to make LeBron never had.
Actually, it's not even points per game because LeBron has higher points per game. They look at raw points scored.
Right pass, a high IQ pass. LeBron never even had that on that team.
Yeah.
Kobe even had that. You know, and no one talks about it, but it's true. He goes in there, he'll grab some rebounds for you, make a few good passes, hit an open shot. You know, play some defense, take a charge.
Well, that's the other thing. Is like, I noticed like the reason why these people have such bad reputations is because Kobe himself. Because Kobe calls in the media, he trashes Smush Parker all the time, Kwame Brown, these guys all the time, right? And then because the fan base always believes what Kobe says, he's like, oh, Smush Parker's the worst player ever, Kwame Brown's the worst player, because Kobe said so. And then when you play with Dwight, right, he's like, oh, Dwight's so soft, and everyone, the public opinion, you see, they turned on Dwight, right? After that, he's like, oh, Dwight's the softest player ever, because Kobe said so, right? So it's like whatever Kobe says against a teammate, he ruins their career reputations, right?
Dude, he even tried to blame Gasol for a loss. I told you, right? Against OKC, they're up by 10 points in the fourth quarter, game 3 or 4. They're up by 10. Against OKC, they're up by 10 points in the fourth quarter, game 3 or 4. They're up by 10 points. Kobe actually had like 4 turnovers that quarter, and Kobe shot like 2 for 10 that quarter. 2 for 10 with like 4 turnovers that quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gasol made one small mistake. And then he blames him in the press conference afterwards. He says Gasol needs to step up. That's what he said. But I'm like, dude, you had 4 turnovers, you were 2 for 8 from the fourth quarter, and you're blaming Gasol? I mean, what the hell is this? And that's what I said. Barkley got super mad after that. After that game, and Barkley heard the press conference, Barkley, this is bullshit. He said bullshit right on TNT. On halftime show the next day.
Well, the strange thing is Barkley still ranks Kobe ahead of LeBron.
See, Barkley changes all the time.
That's the weird thing.
Barkley changes all the time. He goes up and down all the time, so you can't really trust him.
Yeah, the same thing with Pippen. I find Pippen's also a guy who like he constantly changes. Like sometimes he praises Jordan, sometimes he shits on Jordan. Sometimes he praises LeBron, sometimes he shits on LeBron.
Sometimes he says LeBron's better than Jordan. Sometimes he says no, there's no game that would ever take.
Yeah, it's so
LeBron
weird.
over
Like
Jordan,
so I never.
Shaq too. Like he's like just so flaky, when he says stuff. Like I find sometimes these guys don't really think it through properly when they're talking. But I remember Barkley though, he was shitting on Kobe so bad after like Kobe tried to blame Gasol. And then I told you, Barkley, what he did was the very next day on the TNT halftime show, he kept saying like, it was just bullshit, for Kobe to blame Gasol. Like Kobe played horrible in that quarter. They're up by 10. Kobe himself was a bigger reason why they lost that game. And then he actually got the TNT crew to make a whole clip of the entire series so far against OKC, all the bad decisions and bad shots that Kobe made. Every single play, every play. And then he was like, look at that, that's a bad shot. That's a bad shot. Like Kobe, there's one play, it was like game 1 or 2, Kobe walks the ball up the court. There's fucking 20 seconds or 18 seconds left on the shot clock.
Uh-huh.
He walked the ball up the court, doesn't make a single pass. He's about 6 feet away from the 3-point line, being covered, and he just chucks the 3-point shot. For no reason! There's like 18 seconds left on the shot clock. They just missed it really badly. And then so Barkley told like TNT group, piece all this together. And Barkley said, that's a bad shot. That's a bad shot. This is the reason why they're losing. Kobe was making these bad decisions, bad shots, getting them into the hole. And then after that, Kobe I think texted him, told him to fuck off and everything. And it was on text. And then
And then no one talks about that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And then the thing about him quitting on his team too against Phoenix Suns in Game 7, and then Barkley was shitting on him too. And then
No one talks about this stuff.
Exactly.
They never talk about Kobe getting swept in 2011. They never talk about Kobe quitting on his team. They never talk about all these bad shots that Kobe makes. Like it's like all swept under the rug.
The funny thing is, I watch a lot more Kobe games than these so-called Kobe fans themselves, because I watch every single Kobe game. Because I watch every playoff game. Every playoff game of a team that I have an interest in, I watch every time, every year, original live broadcast. So I've seen it all. A lot of these I don't know if they've even seen it, or they're just going by reputation. And then not only that, I have the game saved. I either tape the games on VHS or actually have, they're just going by reputation. And then not only that, I have the game saved. I either tape the games on VHS or actually have the whole game on a digital file.
Yeah.
For example, the series against Detroit in 03 or 04, when they lost to Detroit in the finals, I have the whole series, even right now in my hard drive, original broadcast, live. And then I have the whole series against OKC. I have all this stuff. So I've actually rewatched them too, so I know what I'm talking about. Right? It's like, and these Kobe fans are like, come on, man. It's like, so yeah.
No, I don't think they watch the games. They only go by highlights or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why they'll send you these clips.
Yeah.
It's like just highlights.
Yeah.
It's like, look at all these clutch shots Kobe made, all these buzzer beaters and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, the guy played 20 years. Most of these are from the regular season. Which ones are actually from the playoffs, right?
Yep. I mean,
Yeah, you ever notice like whenever they praise Kobe's like where he scored 60 something 80,
it's always regular season.
it's always regular season.
Yeah.
It's never from the play on the whole game live.
Yeah.
Right? And then everyone's praising Kobe that game. Oh, he scored 60 points. No one's ever done that before in their last game. I was like, did you see how many shots the guy took?
And also, not only that, the other team gave him those shots.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was watching the Yuta. Yuta did not try to play any defense on him at all.
It was his last game. Utah was like, take it. It's just to celebrate the guy. That's it.
Yeah, because it's the last game of his farewell tour.
Yeah.
And I think Yuta, they wanted Kobe to whatever go out on the big bang or whatever.
They literally gave him all that. I'm like, are you fans that stupid to even bring this game up?
And his teammates just passed him the ball every time.
Yeah.
Then Yuta didn't play any defense on him. Took 50 shots, like.
So retarded, man.
And then everyone, and the next day you see on the media, Kobe scores the most points of any player, blah blah blah. And I was like, this is bullshit.
I know, exactly. It's just stuff like this that really pisses me off. I'm like, the guys were giving him the points, and then now you're acting like that's some type of GOAT argument for the guy. It's like, are you guys fucking like retarded? Oh my god! And then like the 81 point. Oh my god! And then like the 81 point game. That's right when the league changed to the new soft rules. That was the first year they changed to the soft rules, and then they were playing the worst team in the NBA, in the Raptors that year. The Raptors were the worst team in the NBA that year, with the worst defense, and also the new soft rules.
Mm-hmm.
That year, if you actually watched that, the refs did not know how to call fouls that year because the rules are so drastic now. The changes, the refs were like, okay, is that a foul or is that not a foul? So the refs just called everything a foul. And that's why Wade also kind of took advantage of that too. So around that time, Wade in the finals, when they beat Dallas, Wade was just like hitting everybody and getting to the free throw line. It was just a free throw match for the whole series.
Yep.
I've never seen that before. I'm like, this is stupid. Every possession is free throws. Every possession. Like Wade is just finding a guy and he's just hip checking the guy himself with the ball.
Well, yeah.
And it's a foul on that guy.
Pre-Harden basically.
Yeah, exactly. like people keep saying Wade was so great there, but okay, give him credit for taking advantage of the rules. But if it wasn't for the rules, he wouldn't have gotten those stats and those points. Give him credit for taking advantage of the rules. But if it wasn't for the rules, he wouldn't have gotten those stats and those points. He wouldn't have played like that. He took advantage of it big time, and that's really it. And then Kobe, that 81-point game was because of those rule changes. Simple as that.
Yeah,
So,
and it's also just because no player since has tried to take that many shots against like that bad of a defensive team. Like you
Yeah.
see how many quarters, like for example Steph Curry or Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
You remember Klay Thompson had 37 points in a quarter before?
Yeah.
Right? Imagine if he didn't sit out. He sat out like the fourth quarter, right?
Exactly.
Imagine if he didn't sit out the fourth, he would have broke 81 points.
And also
Right?
a lot of it is because a lot of the
A lot of Curry's games he could have broke 81 points too, but he didn't.
And the biggest thing is like the difference between Kobe and a lot of other players is a lot of these other players actually play with a much higher basketball IQ. So they even get their shots more in the flow of the offense. So with a lot of other players, when they go hot, quite often their teams are already blowing the other team out because they're playing at a high IQ level. They're taking high IQ shots. So like you would notice a lot of times, like say if Shaq blow out when LeBron's on his game, because these guys are high IQ players playing smart, taking good smart shots. When Kobe's having a big game, quite often the game is like really tight because he doesn't play in the flow. He doesn't play high IQ.
Oh yeah.
You know.
But then they'll make this argument. It's like that's why his 81 points were so important to win the game because it was so close.
See, which is bullshit because like all the other players who play in the flow and then they get super hot,
Yeah.
it's already a blowout at the end of the third quarter and they can sit out the rest of the fourth quarter. That's why their stats are not inflated anymore because they're playing so well. It's good enough to blow up the other team in one quarter. Like LeBron, sometimes when he's hot and he's playing so well for 1.5 quarters, it's already a 20-point lead already after about 2 quarters. And then like that's it. You can sit out the fourth. You're done.
Yeah.
You're done for the night. But with Kobe, it's almost like he just chucks and chucks and chucks and chucks, but it's not in the flow, so it's not good for your team. And then that's why the game's always still close with you chucking so much. So you play all the way to the end, even at an overtime sometimes, and then bam, you get like really high scoring. You know, in the close, you're not really helping your team that much because you're not playing in the flow.
Yep.
Yeah, but you can pad your stats that way. I mean, so.
That's why I thought like Kobe's 81 points is the most overrated game ever, right? Because everyone talks about it. And they always bring it up when they talk about Kobe. And I was like, that's the most overrated game. First of all, regular season against like a really shitty team.
Yeah.
And dude, so many times I watched. This is why like even back then, right? Even back then, I didn't have to have a good working knowledge of basketball to know this. But I was still watching Curry. Now, I'm from San Francisco, so obviously I watch Curry play. But yeah, all these times Curry and Klay Thompson, they could have easily broke 81 points if Kerr kept them in the game. Right?
Yeah.
So like so many times like Kobe's 81 points could have been broken, but they didn't break it because they
It's like that with all great players.
Yeah.
When Jordan back in the day, when he was super hot, quite often he's done. He's not even playing the fourth quarter anymore. He could have kept going if he was just looking for stats, but he just wants to win the game. If he was just looking for stats, if he kept going for the rest of the fourth, stats, but he just wants to win the game. If he was just looking for stats, if he kept going for the rest of the fourth, a lot of those games.
even Harden, I think Harden had like 60 points in 3 quarters at one time, and he sat out a fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And he was a shot chucker too, but even he sat out for fourth quarter, and Kobe never did that.
Exactly.
So.
And also recognize when Jordan was doing that shit and he was blowing up the other team and he stopped playing the fourth quarter and he could have broken that 81 points if he wanted to, he was playing against much tougher defense. Every basket was hard to get in Jordan era.
Yep.
It's not like those Kobe stuff where you get to the free throw line every single
And you were
time.
talking about a slower pace.
Yeah, exactly. Slower pace, less possessions, less fouls, less free throws, and also you're always covered for your shots.
Yep.
Your shots are more contested back in the day. You get hammered too. Sometimes there's no calls. I mean, it's harder to penetrate because there's hand checking. Kobe did it against no hand checking, new rules, fouls every time, so many free throws and everything. It's a totally different game. You put Jordan in that era with those soft rules, you can't hand check Jordan. You can't hand check Jordan, and there's the lanes open from the drive, and there's no men there to hammer him, and if you touch him a bit as a free throw, imagine how you can stop Jordan. You can't. Like literally, you can't stop Jordan if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can give him a pick too now to open him up. The pick was useless back in the old NBA because the defense was so tight. They bowl right through the pick. You can't get the people open. But nowadays, the refs call really tight. If you try to bowl through a pick, it's a foul on you, on the defense. So now the pick and roll is so useful. And yeah, if Jordan had that, with the picks, no hand checking, everything, lanes open,